She used to think that the safest decision was the intelligent one, not because she feared risk, but because she respected consequences. She had grown up watching small financial mistakes echo for years. Late payments turning into stress, stress turning into silence at the dinner table, silence turning into distance. So when her career began to take shape, she built it carefully. At 28, she declined an offer that many people around her called a leap. It was a fast-growing company, volatile revenue equity instead of high salary, long hours with no guarantee of return. Instead, she accepted a position at an established firm. Strong balance sheet, recognizable name, clear benefits. A salary that would not fluctuate with the market's mood. It felt adult. The first year validated her choice. While former colleagues navigated layoffs and restructures in other companies, her paycheck arrived on time. Her health coverage improved. Her savings account finally crossed 5 digits. She felt relief more than pride. Relief is powerful. It convinces you that you chose correctly. Within 3 years, she had been promoted twice. Her performance reviews were consistent, disciplined, dependable, thoughtful under pressure. Dependable became her currency. When leadership needed someone to stabilize a struggling project, they chose her. When a new process had to be implemented carefully, they chose her. When a department required restructuring without drama, they chose her. She was not the loudest voice in the room. She was the safest pair of hands. Her compensation increased predictably, modest raises, structured bonuses. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming. She bought an apartment in a neighborhood that signaled progress but not excess. She furnished it conservatively. She automated investments. She built an emergency fund large enough to cover 12 months. From the outside, it looked like control. From the inside, it felt like insulation. Around 34, something subtle began to surface. Not dissatisfaction, more like compression. You can feel it when your external life expands while your internal risk tolerance shrinks. At work, she started noticing how innovation was discussed. Bold strategies were celebrated in presentations, but the real promotions often went to those who preserved stability. Revenue volatility was feared more than stagnation. Growth was applauded, as long as it was predictable. She fit perfectly into that ecosystem. That realization should have comforted her. Instead, it unsettled her. One afternoon, during a budget review, she calculated something no one else seemed concerned about. Her salary had increased steadily for 6 years, but her real leverage had not. She had become highly competent within one structure, highly valuable inside one system. But if that system disappeared, how portable was her value? She had optimized for internal security, not external flexibility. It was a quiet distinction, and it carried weight. Meanwhile, friends who had taken unstable paths lived more volatile lives. Some struggled. Some moved cities unexpectedly. Some changed industries entirely. Their income fluctuated. Their identities did not feel fixed. She began to understand that stability can narrow optionality if maintained too long without recalibration. Every year she stayed, the golden edges of her position hardened slightly. Her resume grew stronger within a specific narrative, reliable operator in a stable environment. But the world outside was shifting faster than her job description. Automation redefined roles. Market cycles accelerated. Entire departments in other firms were dissolved and rebuilt within quarters. Her company moved slower. That had once been comforting. Now it felt like lag. She was promoted again at 36. Director level, larger team, larger responsibility, slightly larger paycheck. Her family celebrated. Her parents spoke about how proud they were that she had made it. She smiled. But that night, sitting alone in her apartment, she opened her financial dashboard and noticed something unexpected. Her net worth had grown. Her income had plateaued relative to her industry. Not dramatically, just gradually. The kind of gradual that does not alarm you until you zoom out 5 years. She had traded volatility for predictability, but she had also traded asymmetry. High upside requires exposure. She had eliminated exposure. At work, she realized she was no longer learning at the speed she once had. She was managing complexity, not expanding capability, solving internal problems with familiar tools. She had become efficient. Efficiency is valuable. It is also repetitive. One evening, a younger colleague asked her for advice about accepting a startup offer. "It's risky," the colleague said, "but it could change everything." She heard her own voice respond with measured caution. "Consider savings, evaluate burn rate, understand downside scenarios." All correct, all responsible. As she spoke, she recognized something else. Her advice protected against loss. It did not account for stagnation. Stagnation is quiet. It does not announce itself with crisis. It accumulates slowly disguised as comfort. She went home that evening and opened old folders on her laptop. Presentations she had built years earlier when she still proposed unconventional ideas. Emails from recruiters she had declined. Notes about industries she once considered exploring. There was a version of her that tolerated uncertainty more easily. When had that changed? Not suddenly, incrementally. Each year she chose the internal promotion over the external leap. Each year she selected salary increase over equity. Each year she preferred predictability over positioning. None of those decisions were irrational. Together, they formed a pattern optimized for short-term security. She began to notice how often her calendar was filled with maintenance meetings, performance reviews, status updates, risk mitigation calls, important work, not expansive work. She calculated her financial runway if she stopped working for a year. It was solid. But she also calculated her professional runway if her industry shifted abruptly. That number felt smaller. The most uncomfortable realization was not that she had chosen stability. It was that she had allowed stability to become identity. She described herself as practical, disciplined, risk-aware. But those traits, extended too far, had turned into constraint. She was not trapped. She was simply anchored. Anchors provide safety in storms. They also prevent movement when the wind changes. At 37, she began exploring conversations outside her company. Not impulsively, not recklessly, but with curiosity instead of loyalty. She asked different questions in interviews, not about salary bands, about ownership, decision-making authority, exposure to volatility. For the first time in years, uncertainty did not feel irresponsible. It felt informative. She did not resign immediately. She did not burn bridges. She did not announce dissatisfaction. She adjusted internally first. She began taking visible risks inside her current role, proposing strategic shifts that carried measurable downside, accepting accountability for experiments that might fail. Some ideas were rejected. One succeeded. The experience reintroduced something she had not felt in a long time: elasticity, the ability to stretch without breaking. She started to understand that the real vulnerability had not been external instability. It had been internal rigidity. Her bank account had grown steadily for a decade. But growth in capital is not the same as growth in capacity. Now, as she looks at her career, she no longer asks whether it is safe. She asks whether it is expanding. And she still does not know which question matters more in the long run. But she knows that answering only one of them is no longer enough.